Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to start a whole new series. I had this idea. Here we have this community, and there's only about 90 of us in this group, so it's a small group, but let's have some fun. Let's create this community. Let's come in, have this space that you could talk about yourself, and you could talk about what brought you to the online world, what you're creating, and just have fun creating a community, this small community where we can jump in, share, learn from one another. And I'm super excited today to bring to you Tina. I'm gonna say it wrong. What Wefer? I say it right.
Wefer.
Wefer, Tina Wefer. And okay, quick fun fact. She told me that in high school, I imagine you're in high school, but she had a 78 Cougar and she loved racing the boys.
I did.
Did you win? Did you actually?
Um, Typically I gave up before they did because we were driving on two-lane highways and I was normally in the other lane. So when you're driving on hills at some point, like I just chickened out. I'm like, I'm getting back. Um,
Plain chicken.
yeah, I like to race. I don't like to play chicken. But the fastest I've taken my current car is 120.
Oh
So
my, oh my.
I have a need for speed.
Yeah, and the need for speed. So the online platform is perfect for you. I do have a quick question for you though, Tina.
Yeah.
Um, and I ask everyone this question. Do you see yourself as a creative woman? Do you see yourself as creative?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I never saw myself as creative until I was doing a one-day workshop that my company sent me to, and it was around creativity. And I worked in marketing for all of my life, so you could consider that a creative career. But I didn't consider myself creative. And then I was voted the most creative in the entire group of people. They voted on like who they saw as the most creative, and I was like, that was an eye opener for me. I was like, wow, like I don't see myself as creative, but all these people do. And so that's changed my perspective. And I think now I'd look at it more like I'm not artistic, like,
Mhm.
and this is why I need you because drawing has never been one of my strengths. But I know it's really good for getting into the flow and taking your mind out of things. So I know it's very helpful, which is one of the reasons why we met. But yeah, I never considered myself creative until maybe 10 years ago.
That's amazing. Are you using that creative self, that realization in your business now? Are you able to?
No, no, not enough.
I
That's
love
why I
it.
need you, Michelle.
I love it. Yeah, there can be that disconnect because we're creative, but we're not doing business. So yeah, that separation. But more on that later. I love that. Thank you. So could you tell us a little bit what brought you to the online platform, digital platform to
Yeah. So in 2019, I found my biological family. I was adopted, and I found out that my name and birth date had been changed. And so I was in a little bit of an identity crisis. And then 2020, I was working for a new company during COVID, and, we go into lockdown. My plans for my 50th birthday were canceled. Um, I'd planned like this big trip to Italy, like just an amazing trip, and like none of that could happen. And I realized yet again, I was not fulfilled or satisfied in my career. And so the company laid people off, and I was one of those, and I was actually really happy about it. I'd been at the point where I was looking at my life and I was like, if this is my life, I don't want to live it. Like I was not happy. I was not waking up excited about anything. And so between 2020 and earlier this year when I started my business, I did a lot of soul searching, self-discovery, taking courses, um, reading books. And so also in that time, I was doing consulting in my old career. It just validated the fact that that wasn't for me any longer. And I worked for an online course creator who makes 8 figures. And so that gave me a lot of exposure into running courses, programs, running online businesses. And I think it's a really great way to help people to reach people beyond what you could any other way. You know, now that we have so many technology tools, we can really engage with the world. Whereas even prior to COVID, a lot of us weren't using the technology that was available as much as what we could be. And I live in the middle of nowhere. I'm 15 minutes from the closest town, and it is 7,500 people. Um, After living in Denver and Chicago, that's a big change, although I am from a rural area. And so, you know, this gives me a way to meet people outside my community and really contribute to helping women.
It's amazing the global outreach that we can do by being
It
in the
is.
middle of nowhere and how we can connect. Yes.
Yeah.
So
God for
how,
technology.
so what popped up then in that time of healing, that time of looking and growing within your, to expand within yourself? 50 is a big time, isn't that? Where we're look, take a look back and then moving forward. So what bubbled up? What came out of that experience for you, that time period that you took for yourself? What bubbled up?
Yeah. So I was in an identity crisis, but the more that I studied, I found that I was in a midlife crisis. And it happens to a lot of women where they wake up and this life that they've created is no longer fulfilling, or they realize it's no longer fulfilling. Their interests, desires, passions, values have changed. Sometimes it's just a point that we reach in life and realize like we're mortal, you know, like I'm probably halfway through my life. Is this really the way that I want to continue to live my life? Sometimes midlife is a point of reflection. So we aren't where we thought we'd be in life, or we're not where others thought we'd be. Like, what is success defined? Like how is success defined? And I think in midlife, a lot of women realize like it doesn't have to be what we've always been told. And so a big part of this journey for me is realizing it's okay to want something different. We don't need to be worried about what others think. That can be really challenging because a lot of women are people pleasers and have issues setting boundaries, and they're always putting everyone else first. So those are some of the things that I really started exploring. Um, and also one other thing that can cause this feeling in midlife is when we have a major life change, when we become an empty nester, when we think about changing careers, our career's no longer fulfilling, get divorced, lose someone close to us. Those are also wake up calls sometimes of like, is this what I want? Am I creating the life that I want? Am I excited to get out of bed every morning? Or am I just like going through the motions in life?
Yes. Well, yes.
Hopefully not, but a lot of people are still there. A lot of women that I talk to need to be told it's okay to want something different, and it's okay to put yourself first. Like, you're not going to have the energy for those you love or for your work if you're putting everyone else first and you're not taking care of yourself. It's
So
really hard to have the energy to get through.
So where do you lead them to? Is it where, how once you're willing, you're ready, you're like, Tina, yes, I want to know more. Then what happens? How do you lead them out of that life of complacency? Would that be a good word for it? Complacency?
Complacency can be part of it. Sometimes I have started saying I help women create lives that they don't need to escape from, because that's what a lot of women are doing, whether it's going on vacation, watching Netflix, the death scroll of social media, retail therapy, spa therapy, um, drinking, eating. Like, women are escaping, everyone is escaping through ways that just kind of numb them. And so what I do is walk people through my 12-step program, my 12-step framework called the Reinvention Code. And we go through exercises each week that dig into what is it that happens in midlife that leaves us feeling unfulfilled? What conditioning have we been exposed to in childhood and throughout life from our families, friends, society, religion, schools, media, advertising
The
that kind of
world.
tell us like this is what your life is supposed to look like. So we dig into that conditioning and start to break that down. We look at passions and how do we build time in to achieve those passions. What are our values? One of the biggest disconnects that I find for women in corporate and startups, they are working for companies where either the companies, their managers, or the leadership teams values are not aligned with their own.
Mhm.
Like working together, collaboration might be, it was one of my values, and I was working for companies that were very cutthroat and like trying to screw other people over. And that's not an environment that I want to be in. So we dig into values, we dig into desired emotions. What emotions do you want to feel? And how do you create those on an interim basis, even when you haven't achieved in your life what it is that you want to yet? Um, we go through like how do you build strategies to sustain this work? So it's really easy to do the work in the program because we're meeting every week. We have exercises and journaling prompts. But at the end of it, how do you keep that momentum going and how do you retain that focus on yourself?
Right.
So there are 12 different steps and related exercises and journaling that we do each week to dig into like what is it that we truly want in our lives? How do we design, create, and live that life? How do we reclaim our time? How do we eliminate fear, habits, and limiting beliefs that we may be holding on to? So that at the end of it, you're like, I know what I want in life and I know how to make time for it. And it's always going to be difficult to break free of people pleasing and setting boundaries, but women leave with having strategies for that as well.
Wonderful. So not only do you help guide them through self-discovery of what I'm hearing that of what they want and really leading them through a beautiful pathway so that they can sustain it. Is that's what I'm hearing?
Yeah, yeah, that's a big part of it is sustaining it. And you know, we change over time. We're always going to continue to evolve. And so one of the strategies that I tell people is like do take a look at this work every 6 months or anytime you have a major life change. Does this still resonate or not? And if you're like looking at your list of passions, you're like, like it's probably time to re-examine like why are you feeling that way?
Right.
Uh, because this it's not a one and done. It's a continual evolution based on what's going on in our lives that we need to look at like what is it that we want in creating that life.
Yes. And have you noticed that it changes so fast now? With the digital, with everything available and this,
Mhm.
the passions, what we get focused on can flip so quickly.
They can. And I encourage people to think about like what is it that you really enjoyed when you were a kid? Like
Mm,
what brought you peace and solace?
that's a good
Um,
question.
and those are always some good things to look at. Or like what are you excited about? Like are you excited about learning something like
Mm.
learning a new language? Or I signed up for a course at the end of the year on writing a novel. Like I am so excited by that. Like I don't know if I'm actually going to write a novel. Um, but like
Not
it
yet.
gives me something to learn, to look forward to, like having those things built into your life. It gives us some of that passion for life. Like rather than, the one thing that you have to look forward to is like the next trip that you take or the next like holiday, when you're going to have time for work. Like we need something to look forward to, ideally every day, even if it's just for 15 or 20 minutes.
Mm, great advice. That's wonderful advice. So, what is your passion? I'm curious.
So my passions are so I mentioned writing a novel. Writing is one of my passions, and I've been invited to write a chapter for a book called Women Excelling Everywhere.
Mm.
And so that is actually coming true. My draft has to be in by February 2nd. And then a Kindle version will be released later that month, and then the print version in March. My other passions are nature. Um, so being out in nature, having the peace and solitude that is so easy to find in nature is a big one. And just like we have a lot of deer here in the winter, we have hummingbirds in the summer, and like I can never see enough deer. My friends make fun of me because I'm like, oh, a deer. But it's like it's so cool when they're like right outside your window, you know?
We always
Um,
know that's a good sign. Whenever we have a deer
yeah,
sighting, something good's gonna happen. But
I
you have animals, don't you? You have chickens.
animals are another passion of mine. So I have two cats, two dogs, three chickens remaining. We unfortunately lost a couple, but we will be getting more in the spring. And yeah, I love to go out and feed them in the afternoon. Like it's a good break. And when I was a kid and I lived on a farm, I hated doing my chores after school in the evening. And now I'm like, it's my bright spot to go out and feed the chickens, except for watching out so Murray doesn't attack me. That's the only. Murray the rooster is in puberty. So he's like a bundle of hormones right now.
Will he become chicken dinner someday?
Um, Hopefully not. Jeff is working with him. I just try to avoid him. Yeah, he's bit me far too many times, including on my face,
Oh
which
my
was not
gosh.
pleasant. And so yeah, I just try to avoid Murray while Jeff is trying to kind of train him, like he'll hold him and try to get him used to, which we should have done when they were younger. But hopefully it's never too late. He'll make beautiful babies if he survives that long.
So, um, Tina, is there something that you would like to share with the group?
Yeah, I would love to invite people to my group. The Midlife Reinvention Code we'll drop a link. And if you join the group, you can get my toolkit, How to Reinvent Your Life in 7 Days. So it walks you through some of the exercises that we do in the program, just to give you a little taste. And if you do the work, then it really will make a difference in your life. So yeah, if you sign up for the group, then you'll get a copy of the toolkit.
That sounds wonderful. Is it for men and women or just women only or?
The group is for women only. I have worked with men one-on-one, but what I found is that generally women want that community with other women. Like in my group program, it's all women. That was a desire of the women in the group. And so I'm open to having men in some other sort of container, but the group is just for women.
I love it. Let's put men in containers.
Having men in containers. I realized that as I was saying it, but you know what I mean. We're just gonna put them in a little box and
Little
shut them
box.
away somewhere.
Well, they like to work with drawers, they can compartmentalize. So, oh my golly. Well, thank you so much for being here, Tina. Really appreciate
Thank you.
this. Yeah.
Thank you for having me, Michelle.
This is wonderful. And everyone in the group, comment below. Tell us, check out Tina's link and see what she's offering in her group. It sounds like a wonderful free gift that she gives with that. So it's been a wonderful chat. We'll see you on the other side.